The word nice often comes with invisible strings attached. It sounds like a compliment, but more often than not, it's a cage. When someone says she's so nice, what do they really mean? Do they mean she's kind? Do they mean she's compassionate? Or do they mean she's agreeable, quiet, and easy to deal with? Let's unpack that, because nice can be a mask that hides so much of a person's strength, passion, and authenticity. Being nice has become a societal expectation, especially for women. It's a label that pressures us to prioritize harmony over honesty, compliance over courage, and passivity over purpose. But think about this: how often does being nice come at the cost of your own well-being? How often have you agreed to something you didn't want to do, smiled when you felt like crying, or nodded your head when you wanted to shake it? Niceness is often confused with kindness, but the two are not the same. Kindness comes from strength. It's a deliberate choice to be generous, understanding, and patient, even when it's not easy. Kindness respects both the giver and the receiver. Niceness, on the other hand, often comes from a place of fear: fear of conflict, fear of rejection, fear of being seen as anything less than perfect. Niceness says, let me please everyone, even if it costs me everything. Kindness says, I will treat others with dignity, but I will not sacrifice my own in the process. Niceness says, I'll go along with whatever you want so you'll like me. Kindness says, I can disagree with you and still value you as a person. Think about how the expectation to be nice has shaped your life. Were there moments when you bit your tongue to avoid confrontation, only to carry the weight of that silence with you? Were there times when you felt invisible because you didn't want to speak out of turn? Have you ever felt exhausted because you gave so much to others and left nothing for yourself? That's the burden of being nice. It's a constant balancing act, trying to meet everyone else's expectations while neglecting your own. And let's not forget how niceness is often used to keep people in check. A nice girl is expected to follow the rules, stay in her lane, and not cause any trouble. But what happens when being nice prevents you from standing up for what you believe in? What happens when it stops you from pursuing your dreams because you're too busy making sure everyone else is comfortable? This isn't about rejecting kindness or turning away from compassion. It's about recognizing the difference between being genuinely kind and being performatively nice. It's about understanding that you don't have to be agreeable to be valuable, and you don't have to sacrifice your voice to be loved. People pleasing is a subtle trap, a seemingly harmless habit that can slowly erode your sense of self. On the surface, it looks like generosity, cooperation, and selflessness. But beneath that exterior lies a deep disconnect between who you are and who you feel pressured to be. It starts innocently enough, a yes here, a compromise there, but over time it becomes a pattern, a reflex, and eventually a way of life. The danger of people pleasing is that it creates a false sense of harmony. You might avoid conflict, but at what cost? Saying yes when you mean no might keep the peace in the moment, but it wages a silent war within you. Each time you prioritize someone else's needs at the expense of your own, you chip away at your confidence, your energy, and your sense of self-worth. People pleasing isn't just about making others happy, it's about avoiding their disappointment, anger, or rejection. It's a survival mechanism rooted in the fear of disapproval. You convince yourself that if you can just keep everyone around you satisfied, you'll be safe. But the truth is, no matter how hard you try, you can't control how others feel about you. You can bend over backwards, sacrifice your time, energy, and dreams, and still someone will find fault. This relentless pursuit of approval comes with a steep price. It drains you emotionally and physically. You find yourself saying yes to things you don't have time for, taking on responsibilities that aren't yours, and putting everyone else's priorities ahead of your own. You become a chameleon, constantly adapting to what others expect, losing sight of who you really are in the process. And here's the harsh reality: people pleasing doesn't earn you respect, it often breeds dependence and entitlement. When you constantly give without boundaries, people begin to expect it. They take your sacrifices for granted, and you end up feeling used, unappreciated, and resentful. But how can you blame them when you've trained them to believe you'll always say yes, no matter the cost to yourself? People pleasing also keeps you from living authentically. It forces you to suppress your opinions, silence your voice, and hide your true feelings. You avoid speaking up because you fear rocking the boat or making someone uncomfortable. But in doing so, you rob yourself of the chance to be seen and heard for who you truly are. The most insidious part of people pleasing is how it creates a cycle of dependency. You give and give, hoping to earn validation, but that validation is fleeting. The more you seek approval from others, the more you rely on it to feel worthy, and the more you have to please to keep it coming. It's a vicious loop that leaves you exhausted and empty, constantly chasing something that can only come from within. Even your relationships suffer when you're stuck in the trap of people pleasing. Genuine connections require honesty, vulnerability, and mutual respect. But when you're always focused on pleasing, you're not showing up as your true self. You're presenting a version of you that's designed to be liked, not loved. Over time, this facade creates distance, making it hard for others to truly know and appreciate you for who you are. The danger of people pleasing is that it convinces you that your worth is tied to how much you can do for others. It blinds you to the fact that you are valuable simply because you exist. You don't have to earn love, respect, or acceptance by sacrificing yourself. But as long as you stay in the cycle of people pleasing, you'll continue to put your needs last, mistaking self-neglect for selflessness. No, it's a small word, just 2 letters, but it carries an enormous weight. For many of us, saying no feels uncomfortable, even unnatural. We're taught from a young age that saying no is negative, that it disappoints others, that it closes doors. But in truth, no is one of the most powerful words in the human language. It's not just a refusal, it's a declaration. It's a line in the sand. It's an affirmation of your values, your priorities, and your self-respect. Saying no is not about shutting people out, it's about protecting what matters most. When you say yes to everything and everyone, you dilute your time, energy, and focus. You spread yourself so thin that there's nothing left for the things that truly matter. No is the filter that keeps your life from being filled with obligations that don't align with your purpose. The power of no lies in its ability to create boundaries. Boundaries are not walls, they're safeguards. They protect your time, your peace, and your well-being. Every time you say no to something that doesn't serve you, you're saying yes to yourself. You're affirming that your needs and dreams are just as important as anyone else's. But let's not pretend that saying no is easy. It can be one of the hardest things to do, especially if you're used to people pleasing or if you fear conflict. You worry about being seen as rude, selfish, or uncooperative. You worry about the relationships you might jeopardize or the opportunities you might miss. These fears are valid, but they are also limiting. The truth is, saying no is not about being selfish, it's about being selective. Think about the times you've said yes when you really wanted to say no. Maybe you agreed to take on an extra project at work when you were already overwhelmed. Maybe you attended an event out of obligation when you really needed rest. Maybe you lent time, money, or emotional energy to someone who never reciprocates. How did those yeses make you feel? Did they bring you joy, or did they leave you feeling resentful, drained, or invisible? When you say yes out of guilt, fear, or obligation, it's not a true yes, it's a forced yes, a reluctant yes. And every reluctant yes chips away at your authenticity. It teaches others that your time and energy are always available, even when they shouldn't be. It sets a precedent that you will always accommodate, even at your own expense. No, on the other hand, is honest. It's clear, it's definitive. When you say no, you're not just setting a boundary, you're modeling self-respect. You're showing others that your time is valuable, that your energy is finite, and that your priorities matter. You're teaching them to respect you, not for what you can do for them, but for who you are. Saying no also opens doors that yes never could. When you say no to what doesn't align with your goals, you create space for what does. You free up time and energy to focus on your passions, to nurture your relationships, and to care for yourself. No is not an end, it's a beginning. It's the beginning of a life that reflects your true values and aspirations. The power of no extends beyond personal boundaries. It's a tool for creating change. When you say no to injustice, no to disrespect, no to anything that undermines your integrity, you're standing up for what you believe in. No can be a protest, a resistance, a revolution. It's a way of asserting your voice in a world that often tries to silence it. But the most transformative power of no is what it does for your inner self. Every time you say no to something that doesn't serve you, you build a stronger relationship with yourself. You learn to trust your instincts, honor your feelings, and advocate for your needs. You become more in tune with who you are and what you want. No is not just a word, it's a practice, a habit, a way of life. It's not easy to embrace the power of no. It requires courage, clarity, and confidence. It requires unlearning the belief that your worth is tied to your availability. It requires being okay with the fact that some people won't like your no. But in the end, the power of no is about reclaiming your life. It's about living intentionally, authentically, and unapologetically. Silence can feel safe. It's the path of least resistance, the shield we use to avoid conflict and confrontation. But beneath its calm surface, silence carries a heavy cost. It's not just the words you don't say, it's the opportunities you miss, the dreams you suppress, and the truths you bury deep within yourself. Silence can be a prison, locking you away from your potential and leaving you to wrestle with the weight of what could have been. The cost of silence is often invisible at first. You tell yourself it's better to stay quiet, to keep the peace, to avoid making waves. But over time, the unspoken words start to pile up. The things you didn't say, the moments you let slip by, and the times you held your tongue begin to create a gap between who you are and who you pretend to be. Each time you stay silent when you should speak up, you trade authenticity for acceptance, and the price of that trade is steep. Silence is often rooted in fear, the fear of being judged, rejected, or misunderstood. It convinces you that your voice doesn't matter, that your opinions aren't valuable, or that speaking up will only make things worse. But the truth is, silence doesn't protect you, it isolates you. It separates you from the people and opportunities that could have embraced and amplified your voice. It creates a barrier between you and the world, leaving you trapped in your own doubts and insecurities. When you choose silence, you give up your power, you allow others to define the narrative, make decisions, and shape outcomes without your input. You let opportunities slip through your fingers because you were too afraid to ask for what you wanted. You accept situations that don't serve you because you didn't speak up to challenge them. Over time, this passive acceptance erodes your confidence and leaves you feeling invisible, unheard, and undervalued. And the cost of silence is particularly high in relationships. Silence creates distance. It fosters misunderstanding. When you don't share your thoughts, feelings, or needs, you deprive others of the chance to truly know you. You may think you're avoiding conflict, but in reality, you're building walls that prevent genuine connection. The unspoken words become a barrier, and the longer they remain unsaid, the harder they are to voice. Silence also comes at a cost to your dreams and aspirations. Every time you stay silent about your goals, you miss the chance to advocate for yourself. You miss the chance to seize opportunities, take risks, and pursue what sets your soul on fire. Your silence becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, convincing you that you're not worthy of success simply because you didn't speak up to claim it. Perhaps the greatest cost of silence is the regret it leaves behind, the what ifs and if onlys that linger in your mind, haunting you with the possibilities you let slip away. The conversations you never had, the chances you never took, and the truths you never shared become heavy burdens to carry. They remind you of the power you gave up when you chose silence over self-expression. To become bold and boundless is to step into a version of yourself that is no longer confined by fear, doubt, or the expectations of others. It's a radical act of self-discovery and self-empowerment, a journey toward embracing every part of who you are without apology or hesitation. It's not about becoming someone else, it's about uncovering the person you were always meant to be and giving that person permission to shine. Boldness starts with a decision to stop playing small. For too long, many of us have been taught to shrink ourselves, to stay in the background, to avoid taking up too much space. We've been conditioned to equate humility with invisibility, as though being bold somehow diminishes others. But the truth is, boldness isn't arrogance, it's courage. It's the willingness to step forward and say, here I am, and I am worthy of being seen, heard, and valued. Being bold means owning your voice and your story. It means speaking up even when your voice shakes, especially when it's easier to stay silent. Boldness doesn't require perfection, it requires authenticity. It's not about always having the right words, but about having the courage to say what needs to be said. It's about breaking free from the chains of people pleasing and standing firm in your truth, even when it's uncomfortable. Boundlessness, on the other hand, is about rejecting limits, those imposed by society, by others, and by yourself. It's about recognizing that the only true boundaries are the ones you set for yourself, and even those can be expanded. Being boundless means daring to dream bigger than you've ever dreamed before. It means believing that you are capable of more than you've been led to believe. It's about pushing past the fear of failure and embracing the possibility of success. Becoming bold and boundless requires you to confront the fears and insecurities that have kept you tethered to a smaller version of yourself. It means looking those fears in the eye and saying, you don't control me anymore. It's about understanding that failure is not the enemy, fear of trying is. Each time you step out of your comfort zone, you expand your capacity for growth, resilience, and greatness. It's also about letting go of the need for external validation. Boldness is not dependent on applause, and boundlessness doesn't require approval. When you stop seeking permission to be who you are, you free yourself to live authentically. You stop waiting for the right moment, the right circumstances, or the right people to support you, and you create your own opportunities. To be bold and boundless is to embrace your imperfections and understand that they do not define your worth. It's about showing up as your whole, authentic self, flaws and all, and recognizing that you are enough just as you are. It's about celebrating your uniqueness because it is your individuality that gives you power. Boldness and boundlessness are not destinations, they are ways of being. They are choices you make every day to prioritize your growth, your happiness, and your potential. They require you to be persistent, to rise after every fall, and to keep moving forward even when the path is unclear. They ask you to trust in yourself and your ability to navigate whatever comes your way. This journey is not always easy. It will challenge you to unlearn years of self-doubt and societal conditioning. It will push you to confront the parts of yourself that you've kept hidden. It will demand that you step out of the shadows and into the light. But with each step you take, you will feel a sense of liberation, a sense of alignment with your true self. Becoming bold and boundless is not about having all the answers or never feeling afraid. It's about showing up anyway with a heart full of courage and a mind open to possibilities. It's about breaking free from the molds that others have tried to place you in and creating a life that feels true to you. It's about becoming a force to be reckoned with, a person who inspires others not by what you do, but by who you are. In conclusion, stepping into a life of boldness and boundlessness is not about perfection or fearlessness, but about authenticity, courage, and a commitment to growth. It's about recognizing your worth, setting boundaries, and embracing your voice unapologetically. By rejecting limits and stepping out of the shadows of silence and people pleasing, you create space for your true self to thrive. This journey may be challenging, but it is profoundly rewarding, unlocking a life of purpose, freedom, and fulfillment. Remember, you are not defined by the expectations of others. You are defined by the limitless potential within you waiting to be unleashed.